Poker Face.
Welcome back to Poker Face, your podcast where we dive in beyond the cards. Today I have with me a very special guest. He's become one of poker's voices. Started as a commentator in the World Series of Poker and now is a very well-known comedian. Welcome, Joe Stapleton.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me. I feel like I should say something funny, but I don't. I'm very awkward right now.
Don't worry, we'll ease into it.
Okay, good.
Joe, let's start in your early days, the wild west of commenting poker. How did all that started?
Well, it was. It started way before commentary. There's a path. You know, a lot of people don't just grab you and say you be on television. I started as a tournament reporter. You know, like Poker News or Poker.org, standing on the sidelines at the 2005 World Series of Poker and watching hands happen and writing down the actions and running over to a computer and typing them up and putting them up on cardplayer.com. That was my start in the poker world. And the updates weren't supposed to be funny, but I found the job really boring. So I was always hiding jokes in the titles or in the updates, or sometimes I would just make stuff up entirely because I was bored. And we got in a lot of trouble for doing stuff like that. But they figured that maybe we could use those skills doing other things in later years.
You're a complete entertainer. So watching your journey from commentating to now being a top comedian and being even in the comedy club, can you please walk us through what was that like?
Yeah, well, I guess that was a situation where I started calling myself a comedian way before I was actually doing it. And eventually I was like, you coward, like you don't even do stand-up comedy. Like, how are you going to call yourself a comedian? So when I moved to London in 2013 to do the European Poker Tour full time, I was like, you have no excuse. You got to go out and you got to start actually being a comedian. So I started doing stand-up comedy in London, and I was really lucky that my voice already was different because I was American and everyone else was English, and I had a little bit more confidence than the rest of the people who were just starting out because I was already on television, and I had a little bit more. I got to jump the first couple of steps in doing open mic comedy in London because I kind of had those things already going for me. And those first couple of steps, that's where most people fall. That's where most people quit because they're terrible. It's really awful at the bottom of stand-up comedy. So I got to start just a little bit higher up. And luckily, again, because I already have a small audience from poker, even now, I get to get gigs that are like a little bit maybe ahead of where I should be because they know that people will show up to come see me, which is really cool.
That's lovely to hear. In those days, when you did the comedy club, isn't it nerve-wracking to bomb while you're doing stand-up? Isn't that like a paralyzing fear?
Nerve-wracking is not even close to what it
Right.
is. It's tragic. It's the worst thing that's ever happened to you. It makes you rethink your entire life.
Has this happened to you?
It has happened, but it happens to me far less than it should, and far less than it does for most other people. And I think that, honestly, I would say that that's not even a brag, to be honest. It's kind of like a poker tournament where if you're going broke in the first level, which I would consider like bombing, right? It means you really went for it. It means that you really tried to do something different and took a chance. And if you're just constantly min cashing, which is what I do, both in poker and in comedy, like I do okay most of the time. Sometimes I do great. Most of the times I do okay. I almost never bomb. That's kind of like what I do in poker tournaments, where I'll get near the money or barely make the money most of the time, never win, and never go out in the first level, which doesn't mean that I'm playing great. It just means I'm playing safe, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. So poker is all in your life, intertwined in comedy, into your commenting. Can you tell us, for example, who has been your favorite player to watch and comment on?
Sure. Well, there's probably two over the years. Daniel Negreanu, of course, is an easy answer. He's just always brings it and gives you plenty to talk about and plenty to comment on. And a lot of times you can just be quiet and let him do the talking. We don't see Daniel all that much anymore on the stuff that we do. But my favorite probably of all time, just as a viewer, as a commentator, is Phil Locke. He's just so weird and so funny and so quirky and is genuinely having so much fun out there. And if I could just live inside that guy's brain for a couple of days, it would be like Jumanji. Like I would come out with like a beard and wonder what year it was. Like that guy, he is something special.
I remember you commenting on him with James Hartigan, and that chemistry was incredible. What do you attribute such good chemistry with him?
James and I do have a really great working relationship, great chemistry. I think it comes from he and I at our core being very similar, actually, in what we think poker commentary should be and what poker should be, which is entertainment. It should be a show that you want to watch, like any other television show. And so because we agree on that, then the things sort of on the outer things that make us different, right? English versus American, sort of prim and proper versus a little bit more, I don't know, rough around the edges, we'll say. Those conflicts, while they're centered on keeping things entertaining, work really well. And we both also, even though we act completely different, we both totally understand the other person. And the sort of where we don't mix well, right? Which is kind of where the fun comes in. Deep down we do. But we know that for the show, it's much better for there to be some conflict there.
Who's your favorite comedian?
Who is my favorite comedian? Norm Macdonald was probably my favorite comedian. No longer with us. I was lucky enough to work with him for about a year and a half. I always said that if I never achieve anything else in comedy, a comedian that I grew up idolizing, who I think, like someone asked Dave Chappelle who they think the best stand-up comedian in the world is, and he said Norm Macdonald. So Dave Chappelle's choice as best stand-up comedian in the entire world picked me to be his feature act for a year and a half. And maybe I'll never have a Netflix special. Maybe I'll never sell out a stadium, but nobody can take that away from me.
That's incredible. And that's a little bit the old school gen of comedy, right?
Yes.
From the new guys, the new generation, the guys that are on SNL now, who's like someone to watch.
Well, you know, I mean, not someone to watch because he's already quite famous, but Nate Bargatze is like completely blown up right now, and he is an incredible comedian. I don't know how he does it. Doesn't really even tell jokes in the traditional sense. Doesn't swear. Doesn't do anything offensive. And every word out of that guy's mouth is just absolutely hilarious. I think there's a lot to learn from him and the way he approaches stand-up comedy. As far as people who, there's a young fella, not that young, but newer fella that people might not know, named Alex Falcone, who's a good friend of mine. He's one of my favorite comedians in the world. I think he will be a much bigger name sometime soon. And there are plenty of comics in LA that I've come across that are, we did open mics together, and we sort of did the bottom rungs of comedy, and they're starting to pop up around the world. This guy named Mohammed Weinberg used to be on the open mic scene with us. He's a pretty well-known comic at this point. I'm looking forward to seeing which other sort of folks from our freshman year class in LA are going to make it, because they will. And with sort of social media and TikTok and Facebook and Reels and stuff like that, it gives people a lot more opportunities to get out there.
How's the scene in LA? Can you describe it a little bit?
Terrible. It's awful. It's the worst. It's so bad. I went and did an open mic in LA recently. I was trying to practice a little bit, because the gigs I get are all fairly high stakes. You know, when I get booked on the poker tour to do like a headline spot, I can't really afford for that to not go well. Mm-hmm. You know, when there's like 50, 60 people in the audience that I work with, that are my bosses, that are the people that employ me, I can't have a bad set. So and then if I'm only doing stuff that I've known for a long time, I start to get bored. I start to feel like a fraud. I start to feel like, this joke you're doing is 10 years old, like write something new. So I went to this open mic in LA and I ate shit. I just completely bombed so hard. It was awful. And I looked around the room and I was like, I'm the oldest person in this room. No one in this room understands what I am saying. nor do they care. I think that there's nothing wrong with any of the people there. And it was actually kind of a more warm and welcome environment that I'm used to in LA. But another thing is that in LA, there's a lot of comparisons between stand-up comedy and poker. And one of them is the same in stand-up as it is in poker, is that your friends are your competition.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be difficult for them to support you because when you are successful, they might be happy, but they also think it should have been them. So when you're in that room doing an open mic, a lot of times the other comics are just like, even though there's no harm in them really being supportive and laughing at you, they're just sitting there analyzing and studying and, not really wanting to give you that encouragement. So it can be quite difficult, especially it's also very cliquey. So, you've got this group of comics as friends and this group of comics as friends. And I go in and I don't know anybody because I'm only in LA 2 days a month and nobody knows me and nobody wants to support me. And it can be rather difficult doing those open mics.
What happens when you go blank? Blank. Do you have any mental exercises or techniques?
Oh no, I just
to
cheat.
Get back to
I cheat. I have no problem cheating. When I go up on stage, I either take my phone or a notebook or a piece of paper. I put it on the stool. I put a bottle of water. Let's be honest, it's not water. It's beer. And I'll put a beer there. And, when I go blank, I just go, all right, time for a sip of beer. And I just go like this. I look down.
Super tip from a master.
Yeah. Well, another thing I do. Yeah, I'm not going to give my other cheat code, actually. That one's fine. We can leave that one. There's one other cheat I do that's even worse than that. But I don't want people to know my secret.
Okay. We'll save that for later.
Okay, sure.
Tell us one of your favorite hands you've commented.
One of my
what event?
Okay, well, this one's easy to go to, but I was so lucky that my first week, I hadn't even done commentary yet. They were shooting the original big game, so I'm on set. I don't really know how to do commentary at all yet, but I'm there watching as they're filming it. And on our second or third day of filming, there was a loose cannon named Ernest Wiggins, who got into a hand with Phil Hellmuth, where he had pocket kings, and Phil Hellmuth had ace nine, and the flop came 9-9, and they decided to run it 4 times, and Ernest is like a 10% chance. It's like 9 to 1 or something, and Ernest wins 3 out of the 4 runs.
Wow.
And it is so silly and so mathematically improbable. And the rest of the players at the table go wild and everyone is laughing and pointing at Phil. And it's actually quite cruel to him, to be honest. And I didn't love that aspect of it. But as a viewer, it is so fun and so entertaining. And like I said, that happened probably when we did the voiceover for it. It was probably like my second or third day ever doing poker commentary, and that to this day is still the most bananas hand that I've ever been a part of. I feel bad that whenever someone asks me this question, I got to give them an answer that's from 2009, but it's so good.
It hasn't come better than that.
Nothing has been better than that since then.
Yeah, incredible. Set on the flop and then you get beaten.
Yes, I'm not just beaten, but beaten 3 out of 4 times.
Improbable.
Yeah.
Incredible. Tell us a little bit, where do you see live poker going? Because sometimes I worry that it's getting boring a little bit.
I think live poker is alive and well. Most of my time is spent in the United States, and the only thing I worry about with live poker is that it's being cannibalized a little bit, and there's so many events and so many poker tours and so many poker rooms and so many places trying to have events that obviously they get in the way of each other a little bit. But as far as I can tell, people love playing live poker in the United States. I think that for men especially, it's hard for men to socialize. It's hard for men to just get together and have lunch or brunch or go shopping or things that maybe women have a bit easier time to do. And men have a harder time opening up to people. And I think sitting at a poker table is a comfortable place for men to be social. Women too, obviously, but I think that for men specifically, it's like a toughness thing, that there's got to be some game involved or some competition involved to
really open up.
Exactly. And so I think especially for men of a certain age in America, I think that my age group, that the poker audience is getting older. There's not as many young people coming into the game, but for folks like me in their 40s and 50s and 60s, it's just a great way to get out of the house, a great way to be social. So I think I'm not at all fearful for live poker in America, certainly. Do you think it's different here?
No, I enjoy it a lot, but I just worry a little bit when it gets too big buy-ins, unaffordable for us recreational players. I'm more of a promoter for recreational play, right? Because exactly for that, I don't want to cannibalize the ecosystem. So sometimes when you get thrown in a pool of sharks, it's not such a pleasant experience. So I love low buy-ins, and I think there's a thirst for live poker. I've seen it after the pandemic just blow up, where you would think these two competing events, similar guarantees, and both fill up. So you guys at PokerStars are doing an amazing job. I'm a big fan of your tours. I'm a big recreational. I go play the side events, and the community that is being built by EPT is something that I'm really happy to see.
I'm really glad to hear that. I just want everyone to know that anything that you like about PokerStars was my idea. And anything that doesn't work, I had nothing to do with.
Great. We'll use that as our premise.
Great.
Joe, what would be your favorite gig?
Oh, I want to host the Tonight Show.
Amazing.
I want to host the Tonight Show. I want to go on at 11:30 and do a monologue and talk to movie stars. Maybe play poker with them. What do you think of that idea? If we did
I love it.
like a late night talk show where poker is
I
happening.
think you would be fantastic.
That's very cool. Thank you. Yeah, that's my dream gig. Maybe do like a little sketch every once in a while. People in my position are usually failed actors or, failed comedians or, not failed, but sort of wanting to do both. And I'm not going to lie, being on a sitcom sounds really fun, but I've never really tried to be an actor. I think at this point, the only person I can really be is myself. So if I got to do something like host a late night talk show, yeah, that would be the dream. But like I said about the Norm thing, like if I never went any further than that, if I never went any further than being one of the best poker commentators in the world, that's okay with me too. Like I'm pretty proud of that. There was a while that I was like, oh, I wish that, I'd done this, that, the other. And now I'm like pretty grateful for all the things that poker has done for me. And the fact that, I've been to, I don't know how many countries. I'm on the road, I don't know how many weeks a year. I stay in, I don't know how many hotels, have a lot of free breakfast. That's right. There's free breakfast at all these hotels. So like, that's more than most people will ever get to see or do in their lifetime. So I'm really pretty proud of that also.
You're too humble because you are the voice of a generation, my generation. So thank you very much for being with us today. It was a pleasure to have you. And I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Poker face.